Hidden deep beneath the surface of the Mediterranean Sea, there still remain sparse gardens of precious red coral. The hard branches, rooted solidly in rock, are among nature's most sought-after underwater treasures. Lured by the promise of riches, coral divers of the Mediterranean recklessly descend ever deeper for the ever rarer prize.
Red coral is carved into jewelry eagerly bought throughout the world, and as incentive for fast money grows, so do the risks. Expensive coral necklaces are sold by Neapolitan dealers to the world's most fashionable jewelry stores, and divers are driven to dare the depth beyond the brink of jeopardy. Carved coral is a multi-million-dollar business dependent upon the boldness of daredevil divers.
Cousteau is concerned by the destruction of coral, and off the coast of Corsica, he will attempt to better understand the unorthodox divers who are compelled to answer the siren call of coral. In the Mediterranean, Calypso steams past towering sun-baked cliffs on her way to southern Corsica, where Captain Cousteau will assess the state of red coral colonies that have been recklessly plundered.
We descend with a diving saucer. For millions of years, ideal water and seafloor conditions have existed here for the very slow propagation of Corallium rubrum, the precious red coral sought by jewelers since antiquity. Today, such coral exists only below the depth divers can safely reach. Its roots are embedded in the ceilings of underwater grottos, where it often hangs like upside-down miniature trees. A St. Andrew's cross is observed being towed by a trawler above. Dragging the sea floor is one of the oldest forms of commercial coral fishing. The cross breaks off the coral, which is then gathered by untangling nets and trailing mops. The cross, named for St. Andrew, a fisherman of the Sea of Galilee, is scarcely engaged in a sacred operation. It rips indiscriminately along the deep plains and rocky slopes, ravaging colonies of coral that have taken perhaps thousands of years to build. But the cross is unable to penetrate caves, crevices, or grottos. Scuba equipment allows coral harvesters to be much more efficient in the devastation of coral fields and much more daring. Toussaint Récaud, perhaps the most daring of them all, is among the last of the coral divers of Corsica.
Assisted by Nadine, a registered French sailor, Récaud now prepares for a deep descent. During 12 years of dangerous dives, Récaud has devised his own peculiar survival techniques. Warm water is poured next to his skin. Récaud believes it protects his legs from the icy waters below. Talcum powder facilitates the putting on of the multiple wetsuits Récaud wears for insulation. Récaud's depth gauge, dive watch, and compass are essential below. But it is the conscientiousness of Nadine, preparing his equipment, tending his lifelines, upon which the ultimate safety of the 40-year-old daredevil depends. Although Récaud can earn as much as $60,000 a year, he knows casualties are high. Among those who persist in diving ever deeper for the quick riches that coral brings, 2 out of 3 get permanently crippled, and many die at their profession.
Récaud takes 50 pounds of rocks. The rocks will speed his fall so that he will have more time to collect coral on the bottom. As he descends beyond the depth capabilities of reasonable scuba divers, the weighted line will keep him from being swept away by unpredictable currents. It is extremely hazardous for well-equipped professional divers to descend beyond 240 feet on air alone. At such depth, calypso divers use mixed gases, air and helium, to avoid narcosis. Yet, at a depth of nearly 300 feet, Récaud's battle-scarred tanks are filled only with air. Récaud remains as long as 20 minutes to hammer loose the coral he has had to dive ever deeper to find. Over the years, as cliffs of coral in safe and shallow waters were gradually stripped, Récaud forced himself to plunge deeper and remain longer.
Topside, Nadine waits. At last, Récaud gives the signal to lift the basket of coral branches. While Récaud goes through his long decompression stages below, Nadine will sort the catch. She puts aside a trophy for herself and then cleans the rest. These branches are basically the skeletons of coral colonies hundreds of years old. They will soon be cut by lapidarians into objets d'art for varying tastes. At his home in Propriano, southwestern Corsica, Récaud proudly displays his private museum of coral branches to Calypso's chief diver, Albert Falco. These pieces are not for sale. Many hold special memories of decompression troubles. One dive left Récaud temporarily paralyzed from the waist down. Now it is time to check Récaud's tanks, which are being filled with air. Récaud's wife is serving lunch to their 4 children. The diver jests with Christopher, the youngest, for leaving him nothing to eat. Madame Recot is one of the stoical Corsican women who daily await their men's safe return from the sea. The Recot boys will not be coral divers. Their father is among the last of his reckless breed.
Recot, who limps from many diving accidents, is filling one of his scuba tanks for his next dive. Falco warns that it is overpressurized. It is a veritable bomb. But Recot makes his own rules. He claims that he takes his risks here, not underwater. He shows Falco a tank that had exploded, showering steel past him like shrapnel. According to regulations, 190 atmospheres of pressure, 3,000 pounds per square inch, would be maximum. The gauge passes 250, over 4,000 pounds per square inch. Recot defies rules of safety to dive deeper and stay down longer. The longer Recot stays below, the longer his decompression time. After working on the bottom half an hour, Recot's total decompression should take 1 hour and 40 minutes, but he allows it only 1 hour. Nadine descends to help him pass the time.
Recot and Nadine share the same air source. Theirs is a remarkable relationship of mutual respect and trust. Two years before, Nadine had worked as a hairdresser in a small seaport town in southern France. Then she came to Corsica for a holiday, met Recot, who taught her to dive, and decided to stay. Nadine closely watches the diver for whom she is responsible.
Recot has invented his own rules for decompression. He exercises to expel excess nitrogen and possible bubbles from his body. Nadine is concerned that Recot might come up too soon, for a sudden release of pressure may cause the bends.
Nadine reprimands Recot for staying on the bottom a full 30 minutes. That's dangerously long. Despite 3 weight belts, Recot could scarcely withstand the current below. But his concern now is only for the quality of the red coral, which Recot sees in full light for the first time. The coral is pronounced beautiful. The buyers had better be happy with it, he says. At Propriano, southwestern Corsica, the Neapolitan buyers of coral arrive. Recot opens the warehouse where he stores his coral. Here is the boxed accumulation of hundreds of Recot's perilous dives. Hard bargaining for it now will begin.
Questo qui, vedete qua. Volete questo?
Disregarding the countless perfect specimens, the buyers concentrate on the few marginal and dead pieces to denigrate the lot.
Quale vede? Lei se li vede?
I pietri, guardate che pietri.
Sul colpo è strano, guarda.
Sì, questi pietri.
Da buttare.
Questi ce ne mica pietri.
E non c'è la pietra qua, guarda qua, queste tutte tagliate, buttate, vedi?
Buttarle, però con prezzo lo stesso.
Guarda qua,
Buono che è giallo. Come è giallo? Lui è giallo, che cosa vuole tutto? Se è morto non è buono.
Quando è morto,
ma è buono, questo
è morto.
È buono, ma è più buono che l'altro.
No, è morto.
Sì, ancora più buono.
No, quando è morto.
Cosa? Cosa?
Quando è morto non...
Io ne avrei...
No,
spaccate tutto.
The buyers are negotiating for a coral merchant in Naples, and it is their job to obtain this rare commodity at the lowest price.
Questo sarebbe qui, guarda. Che differenza?
È lo stesso.
No, questo è più vivo.
Questi più.
Recco fights back, holding to his price, insisting on the quality of his coral.
Quello ritorna a Petra annata. Ho chiesto 25.000 franchi, sì.
25.000 franchi. 25.000 franchi.
Va bene, no. Un prezzo è buono, non è tanto esagerato, perché se è morto non è buono. Questo
è morto.
È buono, ma è più buono che l'altro.
No, è morto.
Sì, ancora più buono.
Coral is sold by weight, and now a complaint that a small branch has a big rock still attached.
Questo è il corpo strano del corallo. Voi avete preso giusto i petri in mano, ma questo non lo pigliate per musciarmelo, musciate giusto quello.
For the coral for which Recco has risked his life, a deal is finally made. As coral becomes more scarce, the price will go higher, impelling Recco to take even greater risks.
Ho chiesto.
In the Mediterranean off Corsica, the diving saucer is winched aboard Calypso. Recco and his assistant Nadine are guests of Captain Cousteau as he awaits the report on a reconnaissance saucer dive by Albert Falco. Here in Gulf de Valinco, all coral in the upper layers has long been taken. Cousteau wants to assess how deep coral is to be found here and in what abundance. Falco has taken the saucer down in an area located by Calypso's sonar.
Essuyez le capot et Bébert va sortir. Ah, Bébert, comment ça va? Ça va? Alors, qu'est-ce que vous avez vu de beau?
336 feet down, Falco has found a beautiful rock, and concealed along its sharp edges are spectacular coral branches. At such depths, red objects appear to be a dull, dark blue. Falco invites Recco to a saucer dive so that the powerful lights will reveal to him the true magnificence of coral underwater. Says Falco, they are very big branches.
Il faudrait qu'il aille voir en secours. Il y a Yves avec toi, non? Oui, oui.
When coral is mentioned, says Recco, I go. A team of veteran divers, Yves Omer, Christian Bonissi, and Raymond Cole, will film Recco's journey in the saucer. Their triple tanks are filled with a helium-air mix, a routine precaution for fairly deep dives. Recco will observe the red coral in a dive without risk and decompression stops. Director of photography Jacques Renoir, nephew of the famous film director Jean Renoir and grandson of the famous Impressionist painter, will photograph the expedition from within the saucer. Recco descends in what he calls the hollow tortoise. Sonar is activated to relocate the coral rock. Raymond Cole descends with lights to help film the saucer search.
Ok, d'accord, à plus tard.
Qu'est-ce qu'elle a demandé?
Ça va, on nous rappellera plus tard.
The coral here is sparse.
C'est là le corail, il y en a d'autres.
Ça, c'est pas encore là.
Falco assures Recco that they have not as yet reached the
Mais on a
place.
beaucoup mieux que ça, hein. Beaucoup mieux.
Mille colombini.
Regarde encore là. Et dessous, il y en a un peu. Et après, là-bas où il y a ta pierre, tu vois, il y en a quelques branches sans doute. Là, voilà ta pierre, tu la vois? Tu vas la voir.
Allons-y un peu voir pour ma pierre.
Voilà ta pierre, voilà, tu vois? On est engagé.
Vas-y, vas-y.
Là, voilà, en plein milieu.
T'as vu ma pierre?
Tu vois, ça trace sur le pont, là?
Revealed, like a secret of the sea, is the rock festooned with coral, a garden of riches.
Oh, la belle branche là-haut, regarde devant, là-bas.
Corals are not plants, but colonies of sea animals. Some blossom-like polyps are now open, feeding on minute passing plankton. Parent polyps liberate millions of larvae, and many, in nature's overabundance, become food for small fish.
Bon,
Allez, on s'en va.
allez.
On s'en va, écoute, tu n'as pas besoin de mettre de câble ni rien.
Non, 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 je vois que tout va bien.
Je descends le
Écoute,
premier.
je vais appeler Calypso pour lui dire. Et là, tu vas voir ce que tu vas voir
Il y en a
maintenant.
une qui était énorme.
Regarde, regarde ce que tu vas voir maintenant. Regarde. Regarde.
Surviving larvae anchor on rocks to become new polyps that will eventually, over the centuries, produce splendid coral branches.
Oui, mais on pourrait les regarder.
Falco reports on the beauty of their find.
Il y en a une branche énorme là-bas. Tourne, tourne.
Recco wants him to turn toward a crevice he has sighted to the left.
Ah, une calade?
Ah, oui, oui.
Ben, bravo. Moi, j'ai mis 20 kilos.
During more than a decade of deep dives, Recco has seen only faintly the coral he gathers in the dismal depths. Under the saucer's bright lights, he sees for the first time in his life the beauty of living coral in its natural place.
Ouh,
Ça va, là. J'ai vu une branche, ça doit faire au moins 1 kilo.
allez, allez, allez.
Men like Recco will destroy such beauty. Today, coral gathering is still legal, but it has nearly ceased for lack of incentive. There is hardly any coral left to gather.
Now they are ready to ascend.
Allô, Calypso, Calypso, me recevez-vous? Ok, Calypso, tout va bien, tous les mouillages sont impeccables, c'est pas la peine de descendre le fil d'acier.
All is fine. They are coming up.
Tout ira bien, nous remontons, nous remontons.
In ascent, the men encounter a hatch of swarming small fish. The diving team has followed and photographed the saucer at 336 feet. They have to go through an elaborate decompression process before returning to the surface. Time and depth are carefully checked. Meanwhile, Falco and Recco can be immediately winched aboard Calypso. For within the saucer, sea level pressure has been maintained, and there is no need for decompression.
Alors, t'as vu le corail?
Ah oui, on l'a vu.
Recco pronounces the coral he saw first class.
Bien placé.
Très bien, le mien, les autres.
Tout est bien placé.
Tout est bien placé. Il n'y a plus qu'à descendre.
But his present euphoria cannot restore spring to his damaged legs.
Allez hop.
Hop. Très bien.
Alors, je vois là, encadre la roche.
Falco describes the position of the rock.
S'il y en a autant dans les trous.
Recco looks forward to the dive to come.
D'après moi, il doit avoir une quarantaine de kilos.
He's certain there are 80 pounds of sizable coral there.
40 feet below, our team prepares to take pure oxygen from shipboard hoses to expel excess helium and nitrogen more quickly and shorten the decompression period. Divers on the surface watch for unpredictable problems. Then Yves Omer looks at Raymond Cole below and signals diver in distress.
There is a crisis aboard Calypso. Having lost consciousness while decompressing, Raymond Cole has been hastily brought to the surface. His condition is grave.
The cause of the accident is as yet a mystery, but our only concern now is for Raymond. His wetsuit is removed by our worried men, who swiftly execute emergency procedures. Since Raymond did not finish decompressing, he must quickly be put within a decompression chamber aboard ship. Albert Falco helps lower Raymond to the Galeazzi turret, our SDC, our submerged decompression chamber, now in the hold. Before Raymond can be decompressed, he must first be recompressed to at least the pressure at which he had his accident. Dr. François, our ship's doctor, and André Laban will attend Raymond within the chamber.
Bernard Delamotte quickly admits compressed air, increasing the pressure within the Galeazzi. Viewed on the television monitor, Raymond in the center is administered to by Laban and Dr. François.
Recompression squeezes bubbles of gas in the body back into solution, so they can no longer cause trouble. But we are not certain compressed gas sickness is Raymond's problem, as we anxiously watch for a sign of recovery. Now, decompression. Falco will coordinate the reduction of pressure within the chamber to that of the atmosphere. It must be done according to a slow and precise pattern.
Raymond is convulsed with pain. Dr. François exercises his limbs.
Là, vous êtes parti pour à peu près 3 ou 4 heures à l'air, 3 ou 4 heures avant de revenir à la surface. 3 ou 4 heures.
Raymond a essayé de lui mettre l'embout.
Yves Omer, Raymond's diving companion, tells Falco that during the dive, Raymond was cold and had a headache.
Regardez, j'ai bien vu Raymond.
Perhaps Raymond took oxygen too soon and became confused. Because, says Yves, Raymond then removed his oxygen mouthpiece and passed out. Dr. François attempts to revive Raymond, while Falco proposes a slow decompression schedule.
1 heure à 9 mètres. 1 heure à 9 mètres.
Dr. François agrees to the schedule. He then diagnoses Raymond's main problem as hyperoxia.
Exactement, c'est ce que je pensais, c'est ce qu'a dit le commandant Alina au téléphone, c'est l'hyperoxie seulement, il n'y a pas d'accident de décompression, absolument pas.
Falco agrees. It was not a decompression accident. Raymond probably took pure oxygen a little too soon, and due to physical exertion, he fainted.
Ces jours derniers, et il n'y a pas eu de problème.
It is surprising to Falco because they had made many similar dives with no problems.
Il y a eu des problèmes, à toi.
Sitting up now, Raymond was trying to clear his lungs of seawater he swallowed when he fainted.
Oui, sans doute, il y a eu un problème comme ça, des forts.
It had been colder below than on previous dives.
Peut-être qu'il faisait un peu plus froid que...
This may have compounded the problem.
Et c'est pour ça qu'il y a eu le problème.
Dr. François carefully examines Raymond and reassures us that he does not seem to have any cardiovascular trouble.
D'une part, Raymond, qui a été le premier à avoir présenté cet accident, a pratiquement récupéré d'une façon très complète.
Raymond should make a complete recovery in time.
Il est pratiquement normal maintenant, bien fatigué, mais ça va.
All of us know the concerns that cross his mind as he reawakens to the world of sunlight.
Bernard passes a cup of water through the chamber's airlock. Care must still be exercised. An abrupt change of air pressure within the turret could seriously affect and even endanger everybody inside. Dr. Francois encourages Raymond to drink. Reflexes returning, he at last takes the cup. It is a good sign. Raymond is going to be all right.
Oh, je crois que ça va maintenant. Ouais. C'était moins une. On peut respirer.
This is the first time we have experienced this rare kind of accident, and we discussed how we may avoid such in the future. For now, we all feel deeply relieved by the return of Raymond Cole. Although Raymond has been diving since he was 16, this has been his first serious accident. Now shaken and tired, he's seen to his quarters by his diving companion. After a few days' rest, he will be ready to dive again.
Now, Reco and Nadine rendezvous with Calypso, and the decompression chamber is lowered.
Paradoxically, though Reco recklessly dives on air while we more safely use a helium mix, it was one of us who suffered an almost fatal accident. Because of the physical demands of the dive ahead, the submerged decompression chamber is suspended below Calypso. It will serve as an underwater refuge for our men, who will now follow Reco in one of his deepest dives for coral.
Vous êtes prêts? Pareil? Bon, on ajuste nos montres.
Aboard Calypso, Falco, Bonici, and Omer synchronize watches.
Voilà. Impeccable. 1, 2, 3.
They will join Reco to keep check on him during his hazardous dive. We wish to observe firsthand the phenomenon of a man who can dive on compressed air to a depth of more than 330 feet without apparently suffering from narcosis. We will follow Reco with our heavy triple tanks of helium and air, which are lightened by incompressible floats. Reco disdains to use our mixed gases. He claims he's accustomed to air alone. Holding a heavy rock, he plummets with his overcharged tanks, which are like bombs on his back. He tows a line with canvas flags that will indicate the direction of currents, which could sweep him away from his safety line. Now we descend to rendezvous with Reco. At 138 feet, we pass the submerged chamber where we will decompress upon our return. We now follow Reko's lines into darkness. At the depth of 330 feet, we find him, groping along the bottom into the current, in search of his coral, as he has done almost daily for the last 12 years. Reko has agreed to be filmed, although he fears the distraction of our presence will reduce his harvest. Reko maneuvers within a narrow pathway between the coral cliffs. He could not be altogether immune to nitrogen narcosis, but he somehow is able to efficiently coordinate his mind and his hands in reaping the coveted boughs of coral.
Reko's time is almost up. Above, Nadine's hard-working diligence is impressive. She watches for Reko's ascent, and all she sees are rising bubbles.
Reko is beginning to be affected by cold. He continues to work, although it is time for him to go up. We signal that he must start up immediately. Reko agrees, but beginning to show some impairment of judgment. He swims even deeper for more coral. We follow and insist he ascend. At last, he signals Nadine to pull him up to his first decompression stop, just above our chamber. Our Calypso divers now prepare to enter the haven. The men remove their tanks and secure them in exterior cradles. They inhale one last gulp of the hilly air mix and swim to the entrance of the chamber, which is pressurized to equal the pressure outside and keep water from entering the door.
On a television monitor aboard Calypso, Cousteau and Jean Alina check the diver's condition. Falco and Bonici have entered without incident. Yves Omer abandons his mouthpiece and approaches the chamber door.
Reko could not be invited in because our decompression pattern is radically different from his.
As the door is locked, the first phase of decompression begins. 7 minutes at 138 feet.
À 42 mètres, 7 minutes. Vous avez la table? Yeah.
At his first decompression stop, Reko sends his basket of coral up to Nadine. Nadine hauls in the harvest.
According to the duration and depth of the dive, Reco guesses his decompression time, not always successfully, by instinct and experience. With our formidable machinery and carefully calculated decompression charts, our divers are instructed by Dr. François on the bridge to ascend to 99 feet and stop there for 10 minutes. Meanwhile, Reco passes the time by using one of his dive boots to blow rings to his companion. For Reco, this beats clock watching.
Within the chamber, Falco asks Dr. Francois if it is time to go to 39 feet. Dr. Francois affirms.
D'accord. Entendu. Allez-y. Le masque, jour, hein?
The valve is opened and oxygen flows to the masks, which the men secure. As the men are decompressed from stop to stop, the air pressure within the chamber is released. At the earliest convenience, the 4,000-pound turret is winched up to Calypso.
The turret is swung safely into the hold, where the time-consuming decompression process will be concluded under close medical surveillance. After an hour and a half's confinement, our men emerge in good health and good spirits. Soon after our man, Reco surfaces, although he should have decompressed much longer.
Ah oui?
L'entrechambre était partie de la bouteille.
Reco will not admit that he is still extremely tired. He says he feels fine.
Ça va très bien.
We know what the cumulative physical toll of his hazardous profession must be. Yet, Reco intends to dive for coral for as long as he lives.
Nadine displays one of the most beautiful branches. It must weigh almost 2 pounds.
During our investigation, we have seen exceptional men like Reco live a great adventure while depleting the marvels of the sea. But we can't protect the coral by preaching or by individual action. Suitable restrictions should be drawn up and consistently applied. A convention held in late 1989 ruled that the species is not endangered, but coral is still becoming terribly scarce. The measures recommended have not yet been adopted. Men like Recco of Corsica daily court the danger they love, no less than the coral they seek. They revel in the underwater world. There, free from gravity, they are buoyed by the stimulation of ever bolder quest.
In Naples, close to the Vesuvius volcano, Rafael Onorato, one of the world's most influential coral tycoons, is visited by Captain Cousteau. The pale coral is not as valuable as the dark, rare red branches of the oxblood variety. These are the spoils of countless coral dives. The pile of red coral weighs 1.5 tons and is worth over $300,000.
Tout de même, des quantités de corail comme ça, ça représente.
Cousteau asks, does Onorato think it reasonable that divers should risk their lives for the coral industry?
Sont raisonnables.
I rischi in questo lavoro sono come tutti i rischi di tutti i lavori.
The coral merchant contends that in all things there are hazards. There is a certain amount of chance in everything one does. And if a diver wants to risk his life for money, that's his own business. As such, the taking of risks can be defended.
The lure of red coral will continue to tempt man as long as the harvest is not regulated. But it was a tragic irony that Recco the daredevil was to meet death, not gathering coral, but at the hands of his neighbor in a quarrel over a garden hose. Recco's breed will pass as red coral is eliminated from the depths divers can reach. Then, with rising prices, coral will be harvested even deeper by submarines. Gone will be the ecstatic risk that fascinated Recco. Gone also the crippling agony of the reckless men who dive for coral.